as a senator, you're here at Harris-Stowe. Why is it important to have forums like this about the police commissioners?
Absolutely. So this is a very unique situation where the current appointees, they have to be confirmed by the state senate, so they have to be sponsored by either Senator May or myself, because all the commissioners except one of the non-voting members actually live in our districts. So it's really important. We haven't had a chance to vet these folks, an opportunity for the committee to express their concerns, address any issues they may have, and really hear what they want the police commission to look like.
And again, the city had a police commission before. What exactly does a police commission do?
So it's as far as kind of managing the department, selecting the chief of police, that will fall under their control as opposed to a different type of oversight board now.
And you're a senator. What do you think is the number one thing that's going to help us solve the crime problem?
Well, I got to tell you, that is the number one issue that I hear, whether I'm at a meeting with local business leaders, a neighborhood association meeting, or a town hall like this. It's addressing crime in the city of St. Louis. So for me, it's important that we have officers and a board that's vested in not just protecting areas like the Central West End, downtown, but North St. Louis as well, the district that I represent.
I'm Richard Banks. I am chair of the St. Louis County Board of Police Commissioners. I think this is going to be a very interesting forum, and I came here hopefully to learn something. I'm here on retrieving knowledge, find something that we can help. Hopefully it's something we can duplicate in the county.
And as an attorney for so many years, you're a police commissioner now. What do you possibly hope to learn? Not to say that you know so much, but...
Well, it's the interaction. I think the most important thing is for every police department, we serve the public. And I want to make sure and see and observe, listen to what the public has to say and how they interact with the commissioners here in the city.
Again, we'd like to thank you all for joining us here tonight for this important town hall. We want to also extend a thank you to Harris-Stowe State University and its president, Dr. LaTanya Collins-Smith, for opening the space so we can engage in an open and constructive conversation about the future governance of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department and the policies shaping public safety and our city. Tonight, we're honored to have with us all 5 members of the newly established board of the police commissioners, including Mayor Spencer, as well as the board's advisor, Don Brown. We've also got the chief with us and their attorney, Chris Gravel. Just a little background as far as how we got here. In 2012, Missouri voters approved a ballot measure to return control of the St. Louis police force to local control, with the city officially gaining control in 2013. Now that ended over 150 years of state oversight, giving the mayor's office the authority to manage the police department. However, in recent years, there's been efforts to take away local control, spearheaded by Republican lawmakers in Jefferson City. State control over the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department became a major priority of our current governor, Mike Kehoe, and a measure was pushed through the Missouri legislature earlier this year.
So we just want to talk about the months leading up to the change. So we were not, based on our conversations in our communities, in favor of state control of the police department. And that's because we went through so many different conversations while we were in the House in 2012, returning local control back to the city of St. Louis. With that said, myself, Senator Roberts and myself, we went through discussions in reference to the bill, long hours of conversation, and this is where we have arrived right now at this point. Now, these individuals have been appointed what we call in the interim when the legislature is not in session. So let me explain that. If the governor appoints any board in the interim, that means that when the session begins, which begins the first Wednesday after the first Monday of every year, when the legislature starts in January, we go through January through May, then those appointments have to be sponsored by a senator for the district that they're in. So each one of the individuals that are present on the board, they live in either my district or Senator Roberts' district. We have to, what we call, sponsor them in the gubernatorial appointments committee. And then once it's voted out of that committee, it's brought to the floor of the Senate, to the full body for confirmation. So that's the continuation of the process. We wanted to hear from the public, to get your questions, to make sure you had an opportunity to ask questions from each one of the individuals that have been appointed by the governor.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Senators May and Stevens. Thank you for you all being here. My name is Don Brown. I'm a non-voting member of the committee. I do not live in the city of St. Louis, but I've been working in the city of St. Louis since I was 15 years old, coming into work with my father, the original Don Brown. I'm 61, so that'll give you an idea how long I've been working in the city. We've had Don Brown Chevrolet and started in 1984 on South Grand. Moved to South Kings Highway in 1989, and when my father passed in 97, I took over day-to-day operations and have been there as a business owner ever since.
I'm going to hold off on some of the other questions that I had in favor of the audience questions.
What has the police board done so far?
Mayor, would you like to answer?
I can answer.
Sure.
Well, one of the biggest surprises to me was just how much administrative work was involved in outlining the governance of the police board. And so a good amount of the work that the board has done up to this point is outlining the bylaws, the structure of the governance. And I have to say, it's been a lot of work just to outline that piece. It's been frustrating for me as mayor because it's a large amount of time to devote to the structure of it. I do, however, recognize that now that the bulk of that work is done, hiring, of course, our secretary and a contract in place for our legal representation as well now of the chief, a lot of that administrative work has been done to this point. It has felt frustrating at times, I think, to the board members, to me, and I would guess as well for the public to understand what the board's been doing up until this point. But I will say a large amount of it, a lot of the administrative work has been what our focus has been to this point. And so hopefully moving forward, we can be focusing on some other efforts. I'm sure we can, but at this point, so much of that groundwork has been the focus of our efforts up to this point.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'd also like to add that the commission, the board, has been involved in getting to know the department. We've spent a lot of time with officers. We've been getting involved with going on tours with the different departments, so we have a better understanding of how the department operates, as well as some of us have gone out on rides with police officers. And so not only have we been doing the administrative support and building, but we have actually been getting to know the department so that we can better serve in our roles.
Will the police ticket driverless cars that violate any state traffic laws?
We don't have it here yet, but when we do have it, I think that's a conversation we're going to have with our local elected officials and also our state representatives on what we're going to do to a driverless car, because right now, a lot of our rules, you have to identify who the driver is to give a summons out, even if we had red light cameras or speeding cameras. So that's something that we're going to have to look at with technology. And when we do have an answer, and it does come our way, we're going to have to make sure that we have clear answers and direction for our officers and expectations of what we're going to do with these vehicles.
What mechanisms of accountability are in place for commission members?
There are multiple measures of accountability in place. So one of the things that I think is unique about Chapter 84, which created the state-controlled police board, is every person up here is an officer of the state. So the same conflict rules, reporting rules, there's a report they have to file that goes into detail about financial conflicts and whatnot that apply to the state senators, apply to this board as well. So it's a pretty large responsibility. It's a pretty big disclosure if you've ever done these disclosures. And even beyond that, the bylaws have conflict issues and whatnot that if they're not in place will be addressed at a point in the future. So we were lucky that when we started kind of birth from fire that these state rules were imposed on the board, so they all had to do their MEC disclosures, they have to be annual flyers, and they have to abide by all state rules regarding conflict of interest.
What ethical principles will guide your oversight decisions, and can you give an example of a difficult judgment you've made in the past that demonstrates those principles?
Overcoming adversity and leading with integrity is a part of what I've done over the last 30 years as a human resources professional. And so the examples that I can think of using, I can't necessarily provide because I can't violate confidences and those types of things that have been instilled in me with regards to my work. But what I can say is that as a commissioner, and I think I can speak for my fellow commissioners as well, we will lead this commission with a level of integrity that is necessary. We will be transparent. We will make sure that we communicate, and most of all, we'll make sure that we're always involved with the community and with the residents of the city of St. Louis, because in order for us to carry out our responsibilities, our focus, of course, is on the police department and its governance, but also we have to begin to think about how we look at a community-centered policing. And in order to do that, we have to be able to engage with the community and our residents to be able to communicate in our meetings as to what we need to do and decisions that we have to make with regards to ensuring that the police department is supporting and doing the things that they need to do for our community, as well as ensuring that your voice is heard. And we are here to make sure that that happens.
How does the board intend to maintain and increase community-based intervention? And is this a current priority?
The city values community-based intervention. And as mayor, I have elected and will continue to support the Office of Violence Prevention, which is an office outside of the police department that supports the police department in intervening in situations that could otherwise be violent. And as we move forward, I will, as mayor, continue to support efforts outside of the police department that work with I think it's incredibly important that those efforts work alongside and with our police department to address violence in non-traditional ways. I do look to be a voice on the board that continues to support that merriment of our police department with those outside community efforts. I do see this board supporting that work, but I think it's important, as I mentioned, that it is alongside of our police department with, and so that is, I think, an incredibly important role to being successful in those community intervention efforts.
Thank you, Mayor. Spencer, go right ahead.
Do you support publishing officer misconduct data, and if so, in what form and frequency?
Do you all support reporting officer misconduct data? And if so, which way and what type of report should the public be expected to receive? Police misconduct information.
Yeah, our Office of Professional Standards, which includes internal affairs and all internal investigations and external investigations on our offices. We have an end-of-the-year report that goes out that's as transparent as possible with sensitivity to personnel issues. But we have that at the end of the year. We take that very seriously. We have a team made up of force investigations, internal affairs, body-worn camera unit, extra jobs. And then we do these investigations, and we make sure we take that seriously, because everybody wants to make sure we're holding our officers accountable, and that report comes out at the end of the year, and you should be seeing it possibly 2025. It'll be coming out for a few weeks into 2026 for your review. So we will be putting that information out, and then anything that happens with an officer, what we can put out there, we get ahead of it. And even if you've seen some recent stories, you can see that the police department puts that out to make sure the public's aware of what we're doing and holding our officers accountable.
And Chief, where can folks find that? Will it be on the website? Is it sent out in the mail? Or where should they look?
slmpd.org. And when you go in that, there's tabs. We've revamped our website, so it's more transparent from crime information, helping people with anything they need, complaints, long-term complaints, and also you can see those statistics on our officers when it comes to discipline.
Thank you, Chief.
Of business execs in charge of our police make us safer. How does this empower the voting public who now have less ability to hold their immediate city officials accountable?
The structure was determined by the General Assembly. The individuals here were citizens of the city of St. Louis that were chosen to go into place and be on this board here. And just one of my observations about, the board, they have not gone into this with an assumption that they know all the answers. They've gone into this with an idea and an open mind to learn about policing, learn about the department, learn about the culture, learn about what issues people have with the police department. So what I would say is that everybody sitting at this table that I've seen has approached this with a total open mind to look at what are the steps that can be taken to enhance policing, enhance community engagement, enhance things like the Office of Violence Prevention, and grow on some of the things the city has pioneered and the chief has pioneered with regards to community outreach. So that, I think, is probably the best response, because they didn't choose the structure, they want to serve within the structure.
As well as we are reminded that we are all citizens of the city of St. Louis, and we want everything that the people that are here in these seats want. We want a safer, healthier, stronger St. Louis. So we are all committed to that, and to have an open mind to be able to serve is a great honor that is not taken for granted by anybody that's in these seats up here tonight. It is a tremendous responsibility that we owe to the citizens, to us as individuals, so we do not take this for granted. We are citizens as well as of the city of St. Louis that want a prosperous, healthy, safe city.
The budget and the finance, the legality, the other things that are going on behind the scenes, that people are diving hard into this to look deep into how they can help with their knowledge, with their background, on trying to make the whole police department a better situation, not just straight what I would say that really the chief of police has got our backing in what he really does. So there's more to it on our end than just straight the crime. So just something else to think about.
How do you plan to improve community trust, particularly in neighborhoods with historically strained police-resident relationships?
After the pandemic and the civil unrest, we weren't able to get to meet together in any community. And Zoom is a nice substitute, but it doesn't take place of meeting in a room like this, seeing body language, getting to know each other, having the same offices in the same area. And the officers, not just the liaison, but having the officers that are going to handle calls for service, going to each and every community meeting, along with the commanders and the supervisory staff, to get to know what the problems are in each area, and even more challenged areas, which some might have more gun violence than others, telling them how we're doing it, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to reduce it, leveraging technology, and when we're doing that, bringing the information to them and strategizing each individual community. Since we've been doing that for the last 3 years, how do you measure the trust, and are we getting better? Well, it's less complaints against our police officers, and then clearance rates are one of the indicators. Are we building trust in the community? Because we got great detectives, we got great police officers, but to solve these crimes, we need to make sure that the community is with us, they know what we're doing, working together, and our clearance rate right now is probably one of the highest in the country, where it's one of the things that does happen. We want to prevent the first one, but when a homicide does happen, we want to make sure that we're clearing as quick as possible, make sure that perpetrator doesn't go out and do that again. But we also bring justice to that family, and some closure that person's been taken off the street and held accountable. And our clearance rate is at 86%, with a nationwide average is at 50. That's an indicator that we're working together, we're trusting each other. But trust is something we got to build on each and every day through community meetings. Trust is something that's so fragile, we can lose it like that. And so we got to build on it. We got to build on it more, and we got to build on it even more. And it's something that I know the board and I have talked about, the mayor, we have talked about this, to make sure that we're out there, our officers are visible, but we're listening, we're being respectful, and we're working together with the community. And we didn't have an opportunity to do that several years ago because of infecting each other and because we were very busy with some civil unrest. We have an opportunity here to get to where we need to be, but there's some work to be left to do, and it's something that we got to maintain each and every day.
This is something that, you know, we have been working on in the legislature, and I think that only place that has it, we're talking about the Civilian Review Board. And I think it's Columbia and St. Louis City that has the Civilian Review Board. So tell me your thoughts on the Civilian Review Board, because I know that the citizens, you know, are concerned, and that's their way of weighing in as well.
Board, we actually have a alumnus of the Oversight Board, Mr. Ortega. First off, I would say, you've heard everybody talk up here. They're citizens of the city of St. Louis, so they are a citizen review board. One of the things that I would say, you know, there is a possibility to have an oversight board that is involved with the Board of Police Commissioners. However, one of the things that is really important as, you know, we build this government structure is not having people in positions where they're just holding a position, they're actually doing something, they're providing input. I think part of what we're trying to do is get everything established for our, you know, disciplinary. I mean, you know, based on coming out of the city of St. Louis, there's some disciplinary cases that are waiting for hearings that have been waiting over 2 years. And so we have to equip ourselves to do that, participate that, hear those disciplinary hearings. What does the future hold? Is there an opportunity there? The other thing I would say is there's some incongruence between the Police Officer Bill of Rights, which is now mandated on the city of St. Louis, and the Citizen Oversight Board with regards to how we could get it done in the time period that's required, and also what can be shared with an oversight board.
As president of the NAACP, why is it St. Louis County? Why is it important for you to be here?
I don't know, basically to hear from the commissioners, hear what they got to say and respond to the questions. And I'm still upset because what they talked about the Citizen Review Board, they basically said that the Citizen Review Board that we worked hard to put in place has no function, has no place in overseeing the department. And that I disagree with. And I'm hoping that somehow during the next term of the legislature, they fix it.
And I guess making the long story short, they're the Citizen Review Board.
Well, no, they ain't. They're a commission who was appointed by the governor, who still had to be confirmed by the Senate, and that hasn't happened yet. So let's be clear, that's not the case. But an independent Citizen Review Board are not people who are appointed by the governor of the state of Missouri. They are people who may be appointed by the leadership of the city of St. Louis, but definitely not appointed by the governor for the state of Missouri. That's not a St. Louis Citizen Review Board. That's not the review board we worked hard to get in place. That's not the review board that was approved and put in place.
And I guess finally, I'm just going to ask, because we all want crime prevention. Do we feel like that would have crime prevention will happen with this board?
Well, at the end of the day, crime prevention is a function of the management of the police department by the police chief and his executive staff. And so we're relying on the police chief to get it done. I think he will get it done. I think he's doing a good job so far. But at the end of the day, board is there to set policy and provide some oversight. But the police chief is managing the officers on the day-to-day, on their day-to-day duties out on the street, and that's where crime prevention first starts.